See if this feels familiar. Your friend just got another tattoo. A coworker is proudly showing off fresh ink. Your social media feed looks like a rotating exhibit of new designs. And there you are, no tattoos at all. Somehow, that makes you the unusual one. But deciding to remain tattoo-free is more psychologically layered than people assume. Nearly half of millennials have at least one tattoo. With body art so common, not participating can feel like standing out. While endless discussions explore why people get tattoos, far less attention goes to those who don't. Yet their reasons can reveal just as much about personality and human behavior. Let's start with permanence, but not in the obvious way. People commit to long-term mortgages, marriages, even parenthood, without the same hesitation they show toward a small piece of ink. Why does a tiny design feel heavier than life-altering contracts? Part of the answer lies in future self-continuity, the degree to which someone feels connected to who they'll be years from now. Some individuals struggle to picture themselves as the same person decades later. To them, getting a tattoo feels like making a lifelong decision for a future version of themselves who might think very differently. Research shows personality traits and preferences can shift significantly over time. What feels meaningful at May 20th not resonate at 45. Those who remain tattoo-free often anticipate this possibility. They mentally simulate future regret before it happens. That isn't necessarily indecision, it's long-term thinking. Another factor involves identity fluidity. Some people see themselves as evolving projects. They don't view identity as fixed, but as constantly unfolding. A tattoo, by nature, makes a statement. This defines me. For someone who values flexibility, locking in a permanent symbol can feel restrictive. Psychologists sometimes connect this to concerns about identity foreclosure, committing to a version of yourself before fully exploring who you are. Avoiding permanent markers can be a way of keeping options open. However, that flexibility can have two interpretations. It may reflect healthy openness to growth, or it could signal discomfort with commitment and self-definition. The distinction depends on motivation. Is the choice driven by thoughtful reflection or by fear of being pinned down? Social dynamics also play a role. Even though tattoos are mainstream, people still consider how they'll be perceived professionally or culturally. There's often a quiet calculation. How will this affect my image? Will it influence opportunities? Will others judge me? Individuals who opt out of tattoos sometimes score higher in impression management, the tendency to consciously shape how one is perceived. Permanent body art can feel like surrendering control over that image. That doesn't automatically mean insecurity. It can be strategic. Some environments remain conservative. Being mindful of context is rational. Yet it's worth asking whether caution comes from wisdom or anxiety. In some cases, people may limit self-expression because they fear external opinions. There's also a more philosophical angle that rarely gets discussed. For some, staying unmarked is a deliberate aesthetic and symbolic choice. It resembles minimalism applied to the body. They don't feel compelled to add visible representations of meaning. Instead, they value internal significance over external symbols. This perspective aligns with what psychologists describe as intrinsic identity orientation, the belief that who you are exists independently of outward markers. These individuals don't need visual reminders of their passions or memories. They carry those internally. In a culture that often equates self-expression with visibility, choosing subtlety can be its own form of individuality. But authenticity matters here. Choosing unmarked skin because it reflects your values is different from avoiding tattoos out of hesitation or fear. The outward result may look the same, yet the psychological foundation differs completely. There's also an assumption in modern culture that tattoos signal depth or meaning. Body art is often associated with storytelling, resilience, or individuality. But meaning doesn't require a physical medium. Some of the most introspective, emotionally rich individuals have no tattoos at all. Their attachment to ideas, memories, or relationships isn't diminished by the absence of ink. Memory research suggests people encode experiences differently. Some prefer tangible reminders. Others internalize moments vividly without needing physical symbols. Not having a tattoo doesn't weaken the memory of something important. You don't forget someone you love simply because you haven't etched their name onto your skin. Emotional significance can exist entirely beneath the surface. In that sense, people without tattoos aren't necessarily less expressive. They're expressive in a quieter way. They may value adaptability, long-term thinking, or internal meaning over external display. Their decision can reflect foresight, philosophical orientation, or sensitivity to context. At the same time, motivations are rarely pure. Human behavior is layered. Someone might partly value flexibility and partly fear regret. They might appreciate simplicity while also worrying about judgment. Psychological choices often blend intention and insecurity. Ultimately, the presence or absence of tattoos reveals something about how a person relates to identity, time, and social perception. It's less about bravery or conformity and more about how someone answers fundamental questions. How stable do I believe my identity is? How connected do I feel to my future self? How much do I care about managing how others see me? Do I define meaning internally or externally? Both paths, tattooed and unmarked, are valid. They simply reflect different cognitive and emotional priorities. One person may see permanence as powerful commitment. Another may see flexibility as freedom. Neither is inherently deeper. The more important issue isn't whether someone has tattoos. It's whether their choice aligns with who they genuinely are. Decisions rooted in self-awareness tend to feel grounded. Decisions rooted in pressure, whether to conform or to resist, often feel conflicted. In the end, the psychology behind remaining tattoo-free is as intricate as the psychology behind getting inked. It involves foresight, identity development, social awareness, personal philosophy, and sometimes vulnerability. The absence of a mark can communicate just as much as its presence. What matters most isn't the surface of your skin. It's the clarity behind your choice.